So we're now on Daf Samach Vav and Beis, and the Mishnah is addressing a case where a person didn't explicitly commission the writing of the get. He only commissioned the delivery of the get. Or if a person says l'shlosha to three people, kisvu get utnu leishti. So what's going to be the issue now if he says to three people, write the get and deliver it? Are they allowed, these three people, to commission a sofer to write the get, or do they have to write the get themselves? After all, the Baal said to these two people in the Reish of our Mishnah, to get liishti. Maybe he meant to say that somebody else could be the sofer to write the get. And even in the case where he said to three people, kisvu utnu leishti, it's possible that he may have appointed them, those three people, as a bezdin. If we say he did not appoint them as a bezdin, because a bezdin could appoint others to write and deliver the get, and also it says in the Mishnah, Shnayim o Shlosha, Shnayim certainly would not be a bezdin, and therefore even if he says it to three people, we don't know that he appointed these three as a bezdin, and he expressed his desire that they should write a get. He wanted them to be Eidim, to write and sign the get and deliver the get as shluchim. Therefore, they cannot appoint someone else in their place. Now, here we get into the issue of shliach osa shliach or ein shliach osa shliach. In the Gemara's language, ein shliach osa shliach is called mili lo memsari l'shliach. Why? Because if a shliach gets a get from the Baal had the get written and then he gives it to a shliach, the shliach can hand it on to another shliach, and that's called shliach osa shliach. But if there was no get written, then when the Baal appoints a shliach, for that shliach to pass on to another shliach and appoint a second shliach, that would be mili. That would be simply words, because there's no actual physical get. And the Mishnah seems to be assuming that mili lo mimsari l'shliach. However, amal l'shlosha tnu get liishti. If he said tnu get liishti, the three people, he didn't mention a word about ksiva, then arelu yomru lacherim yichtem. Now they become a bezdin, and as such, they can appoint someone else to write and give the get, and they shall son bezdin. Divrei Rabbi Meir. The Zohar Locha Hela Rabbi Chanina Ish Ono, from a place called Ono, the Beis HaSurim, right? Rabbi Akiva was in jail, and Rabbi Chanina Ish Ono was able to transmit Torah from Rabbi Akiva to the public. Mekubal ani v'omer l'shlosha tnu get li ishti. Rabbi Akiva said, I have a Kabbalah, a transmission that was given to me from my Rebbeim, that if a man says to three, tnu get liishti, then he makes them into a bezdin. He didn't say kisvu. Sheyomu lacher v'yichtu, they can appoint someone to write the get. Mipnei shason bezdin. On Rabbi Yossi disagrees. No menu l'shliach. This shliach, Rabbi Chanina, who is transmitting the Torah of Rabbi Akiva, I want to tell him that af anumikubal, we also have a tradition from Rabbi Akiva, but it's not your tradition, but rather shafilu oral lebezna gol shmishlayim tnu get liishti sheyilmedu v'yichtavu. Even if he would go up to the Besna Gadol and Lishkas Hagos of 71 elders, and he would tell them tnu get liishti, they have to learn. If they don't know how to write a get, let them take a crash course in Safros, and they will write the get, and they themselves personally will give and deliver the get. They cannot appoint anyone else because mili lo mimser l'shliach klal, even in a case of nimseru lebest. Now the Mishnah wants to know what happens if a man commissions 10 people to write and give the get. We don't need that all the 10 people sign on this get. His kavanah was not that all 10 should sign on the get, but rather that 3 of them, 2 of which will sign on the get, 1 will write the get. He didn't add the word kulchem, and therefore all we need is 2 people to sign the get and 1 to write it. However, if the Baal said kulchem ksovu, I want all of you. Now the word ksovu means to sign the get. Let's say according to Rabbi Meir, Eri Chasima Karsi, right? Echad kosev v'kulam chosmin. Okay, 1 will write the get, and all 10 of them have to sign the get, because that's what the Baal indicated when he added the word kulchem ksovu. Ulefichach, meisa echad mehem harei get batel. If 1 out of the 10 dies, then the get is batel. Now here we have to ask a question, the Ramban's kasha. We had the case earlier in the Mishnah Mushlach Lebar, and he said Kol HaShomea, you get leishti. We didn't say over there that all the people who heard his voice have to write the get, have to sign the get. That we didn't say. So the Ramban says that a person who's Mushlach Lebar, he didn't have in mind that all the Shomim should write and sign the get. He meant to say anyone who hears my voice could sign again. Gemara says, Rabbi Yomi bar Abba sholchu levi bei Rav u'Shmuel Yilamdeinu Rabbeinu. So the Beis Medrash of Rav, they asked Shmuel the following question: Amar l'shnayim kisvu utnu get leishti. The Baal commanded 2 people to write and give the get to his wife. Amru lasofer, and these 2 people commissioned a sofer to write the get. The kosav, the sofer wrote the get, but for chasmu heim, they signed the get. What's the din in this case? Is it enough that they signed the get, even though the nusach get, the gufishal get was written by the sofer, or no? They themselves have to learn safrus and they have to write the get. Sholach lehu, Shmuel says, if she got married to someone else, we have to take her away from a husband, a second husband, because we are in a suffix situation. We don't know whether this get is valid. And we need to study this in great depth to determine whether the get is valid. Maya dover tzorach Talmud. What was the suffix of Shmuel? What was he vacillating about? If we're going to say that this shlichus is only mili, it's dvarim b'alma. The Baal did not give a get into the hands of the shliach that the shliach could pass on to another shliach. He rather commanded him to write the get and give the get. Umesafkale and Shmuel vacillates back and forth mili. What's the status of dvarim b'alma? Imimsul shliach. Can you pass it on to a shliach? Ilo mimsul shliach, or no, it's not valid. From Shmuel Rebbe, Shmuel himself goes on record as saying, "Alok Rabbi Yossi Yomimili lo mimsul shliach." Because it was Rabbi Yossi who said that even if the Baal would get in front of the Beis Nagol B'Yushalayim and command them to write the get, they have to write the get. They cannot commission a sofer to write the get. So we see that Shmuel holds halacha mili lo mimsul shliach. The suffix of Shmuel in the case of a Baal who Omer l'shnayim kisvu tnu get li'ish, he could not revolve around the issue of mili, because Shmuel's on record as holding mili lo mimsul shliach. Elo l'shmuel hakam iboile. What was the suffix of Shmuel? Hai ksovu. When the Baal said ksovu, what did he have in mind? Iksav yadam. Maybe all he had in mind was that they should sign the get. And once they sign the get is kosher. Or no. Iksava get, maybe the kavanah of the Baal was that they have to write the get. They themselves have to write the get. And they didn't do so. And therefore the get is possible. So the Gemara says, Tifshot Levi Mas Nisan, if Shmuel had such a suffix, why didn't he determine the answer to this question based on the Mishnah? What does the Mishnah say? Tnu get leishti olish losha kisvu get utnu leishti areli yitru v'yitnu. We see that they themselves have the right to get. So the Gemara and the Havamina now understood that when it says harelu yichtavu, it doesn't mean that they should have it written and they could appoint a sofer, but it means that they themselves have the right to get. And if they don't know how to do so, they got to learn, take a crash course in Safras. Gemara says, no, he gufa kami boile. This is exactly Shmuel's suffix. He didn't know how to learn the Mishnah. What does the Mishnah mean when it says harelu yichtavu v'yitnu? Maybe yichtavu means ksav yada, means the signatures. And all they have to do, and that's sufficient, is that they sign the get. And therefore they can commission a sofer to write the get. O ksav getu. Or should we say, Or should we say that no, they have to write the get themselves? Frek the Gemara pshita. There's no question that when the Mishnah says yichtavu, it says harelu yichtavu, it means that they themselves have to write the get. The ksava getu, that's the writing of the get. The Katani Seifa, right? Rabbi Yossi the Seifa is going to say that the Beis Din has to learn how to write a get. Amar Rabbi Yossi, no minu l'shliach. We told Rabbi Chaynina when he was a shliach to bring the halacha to the Beis Medrash from Rabbi Kiva. Afanu mekubalim. We have a different Kabbalah. Afilu Amar leBeis Din Hagol Shmishtai to get lishti sheyilmedu. Let's underline the word sheyilmedu. They have to learn how to write a get so that they can write the get themselves, and then they can deliver the get to the wife. So we see from Rabbi Yossi in the Sefer that Tanakam and the Reish is talking about that these fellows have to learn how to write the get. That it means that they themselves have to write the gufo shall get shapir. Then we understand how it's possible that the Dayanim are not experts. They don't know Safras how to write a get, and therefore they have to learn how to write the get. If we can interpret that the Beis Din has to learn how to sign the get, and as far as the ksiva is concerned, the Beis Din can give it to someone else to write the get. Could it be that Dayanim on the Beis Din are so ignorant they don't even know how to sign their own names? And the word says even though they took a crash course in being Dayanim, but they didn't get used to writing their names, and they don't know how to sign their names. And the Rambam in Pirush HaMishnah says a very important point. He says that a Beis Din is not chayv to be sofrim, they're chayv to be chachamim. And when you sign a get, you have to do it according to the laws of Safras. And they didn't learn the laws of Safras. They're brand new Dayanim, fresh out of Dayanis. Now the Gemara goes back to clarify what was Shmuel's suffix. After all, Shmuel holds Bili lo mimsul Shmuel, Svila high, Suvu ksav yadamu, haksav get kosher. What does it mean? That if, let's say, Shmuel's of the opinion that when the Baal says ksuva, it means they should sign the get. And as far as the writing of the get itself, kosher, it could be written by someone else. But how could that be? Shmuel himself said, Amar Rebbe, halachic Rav Yossi v'yamar bili lo mimsul shliach. So how can it be possible that we're going to bring in a sofer to write the get? It means that these Eidim who are going to sign the get, they're going to bring in a sofer and commission a sofer to write the get. So even if the Baal was not makpid that they themselves write the get, but nevertheless the shlichus here is dvar v'alma, it's mili. And mili lo mimsul shliach according to Shmuel. So how could the get be kosher when somebody else writes the get? And now we get into the sugya of Omer Imru. Gemara answers, Amri, they said in the yeshiva, if on the tzad, that when the Baal said ksuvu, he meant that they should sign the get. Then with regard to the ksav get, the writing of the ksav, where the Baal apparently is not makbid, who writes the get, is naseka Omer Imru. It's as if the Baal had said to the two Eidim, you know what? You sign the get, and you appoint a sofer. Even though Mili lo mimsul shliach, but nevertheless Omer Imru is valid. And here we have Rabbi Kivega. Rabbi Kivega is going to try to explain what's the difference between Mili and Omer Imru. Says Rabbi Kivega, the Mishaleach has the power, the authority, the koach, to appoint a shliach on Mili. The shliach himself, on the other hand, doesn't have the koach to appoint a shliach on Mili. So even though Mili lo mimsul shliach, which means that the shliach cannot pass on the Mili and appoint a second shliach, the Baal, the Mishalech himself, could do so, and that's called Omer Imru. Can you actually postulate the possibility that even though Mili lo mimsul shliach, according to Rabbi Yossi, which will possible, but nevertheless Omer Imru is valid. For now we have a Mishnah later on, a Daf Ayin Aleph on the base. Ksav Sofer, the aid kosher. In other words, every sofer has his own unique handwriting, his own. You can identify the sofer even without his signature by the letters of the get that he wrote. So if you have one aid who signed on the get, and the sofer himself, the writing of the get is aid. So we have one aid and another aid. Rabbi Yomi said, no. This is not the pshat in the Mishnah. I'm sorry. A get cannot be kosher without two chasimos of aid. So what does the Mishnah mean when it says ksav sofer v'aid kosher? Some sofer shaninu. The Mishnah is talking about a case where the sofer himself signed on the get after he wrote the get, and another aid attached his signature. Now, 1 second. The sofer is now acting as an aid. Was he commissioned by the Baal to be an aid? Omer Rav Chizda masnisim mani Rav Yossi hidyav Mili lo mimsul shliach. Since Mili lo mimsul shliach, therefore no one would sign a get unless he personally heard from the Baal that he himself was commissioned to sign the get. Therefore, this get has no chashash takol. The sofer is not worse than any other aided. And that's all based on Mili lo mimsul shliach, because if someone signs a get, it must mean that he heard from the Baal directly that he was commissioned by the Baal to sign the get. Because Mili lo mimsul shliach. So if the sofer signs the get, we must assume that he was commissioned by the Baal. But says Rav Chizda, if Mili mimsul shliach, then we have to be choshesh that maybe the Baal said to his shliach, tell the sofer to write the get, tell Adam to sign the get. Now this shliach was worried about the honor and the dignity of the sofer, so he changed it. And he said to the sofer, you sign the get. That's not what the Baal wanted. The Baal wanted the sofer to write the get, and two Eidim other than the sofer to sign the get. And this shliach went ahead and he decided that the sofer should sign the get. He didn't want to embarrass the sofer to think that, you're a sofer, but we don't rely on your Eidim. You're not kosher Eidim. We don't rely on your nemanos. And now, if that's what the shliach does, and he has the sofer sign as an aid, then the get is possible because it wasn't done according to the mandate of the Baal. But if you're going to say that Omer Imru is valid because Rabbi Yossi, although he holds Mili Lo Memsu Shuya, but he concedes that Omer Imru, when the Baal says, you tell the Sofer to write the get, is Nofik Nechibra. Now we're going to have a problem. There could be a disastrous situation of a woman who got married based on a get that was possible. She had children from that second marriage. There are times the Amalu, the Baal says Lishnayim, and here we turn to Daf Samach Zayin. Imru Sofer v'yichtav. Tell the Sofer to write the get. Uleploni v'yachtam, and tell those other two guys, mentions them by name, to sign the get. However, when these two were commissioned by the Baal to commission a sofer and to aid him to sign Mishum Kisuva the sofer, they were worried about the honor and the embarrassment of the sofer. Chayshi, they were worried. So what they did was they appointed an aide to sign the get, and they told the sofer to sign the get. When the Baal never told the sofer to sign the get, he told these guys, get to aid him to sign the get and get a sofer to write the get. And therefore we have a psul here. The get was not written according to the mandate of the Baal. And therefore the get is pasul v'nasime churva. Now she gets married based on this get, and lo and behold, the get is pasul. Gemara answers the following: that it's very possible that Omer Imru is valid, and Rabbi Yossi's moda, that even though Mili Lo Mimsu L'Shliach, but nevertheless, Omer Imru is valid. And why don't we choshesh for this mikshol as we described it in the previous scenario? Kevan di Omar Mar, these are the words of Rav later on in the Gemara, that if the Baal commands two people to tell a sofer to write the get and to tell two aides to sign the get, kosher, the get is kosher, but v'lo tasakain b'Yisrael. It's not the right way to accustom ourselves to do it that way. Now, by the very fact that Rav added the words lo tasakain b'Yisrael, we see that it's lo shchiach. In other words, the possibility, the scenario of Omer Imru is something that's not shchiach. But what is shchiach? To command, that the Baal command the sofer directly and the Eidim themselves directly. And therefore, we don't have to be choshesh for a takala of some sofer v'eid because it's lo shchiach and therefore the get is kosher. The Gemara is going to go on and raise other chashoshos, but not for today. Okay, then. So let me take this opportunity to wish you a Shabbat Shalom. And